Dominic, Raab, good morning to you.
Good morning, John.
Just rhetoric, isn't it, this stuff about if we find a will, there'll be a way, as it were?
No, but I do think as well as having the plans, the resolve and the sense of national optimism and self-belief is important. We haven't had that for the last 3 years. I think as well as being clear about the plan, we will leave at the end of October, preferably with a deal. And he was confident and I think more optimistic about that than perhaps Philip Hammond on Sunday, but nonetheless giving the finality that come what may will leave at the end of October. And that's very important, that resolve with our EU partners, but also that sense of can-do optimism for the country at large. They haven't heard a lot of that.
Can-do optimism. What he's saying in the Telegraph this morning is if we could use hand-knitted computer code to make a frictionless re-entry to Earth's atmosphere in 1969, we can solve the problem of frictionless trade at the Northern Irish border. There's no substance to this. That is simply nonsense, isn't it? Where is the connection between the two?
So the connection is, if you look at this country and the challenges we've faced over the last 50 years, from fighting wars to dealing with national challenges. You think of the 70s where we were really on our knees economically, rubbish bins piled high. If you think of the challenges this country has gone through historically, and now you look at the issue of the backstop in Northern Ireland, of course, yes, it's a challenge, but it's one that we can rise to.
Well,
and I think a lot of people feel like that about it, John.
OK, well, let's assume that that is right and that there are great challenges that we've overcome. We beat the Nazis, didn't we? And between 1939 and 1945, it took 6 years. We did get a man on the moon, or the Americans did, and they got back here safely. That took 9 years to do that. You've got 3 months to find a deal which Europe is absolutely clear they are not going to renegotiate. I mean, that's why I talk about it being nonsense.
Well, I think the analogy that Boris was referring to in the Telegraph today, of course, with the Apollo 11 mission, a lot of the challenges that they went through were as they landed on the moon. So it was actually a bit shorter time frame that you're talking about. But
well,
look,
we're talking about the project, aren't we? That is the point. If we could land a man on the moon, he said X, Y, and Z.
John, we voted for Brexit. The country did, by a close but clear margin in 2016. We're 3 years on from that. We have got to get Brexit landed. We've got to do it as smoothly as we can, acknowledging the risks, but also with a sense of the opportunities that lie ahead. And
sorry, but just to pick you up on that, you said we've got to. We don't have to, because the law says that if we don't have a deal, or if we do have a deal, we're out on October the 31st, unless, of course, we renegotiate that. That is to say, our departure date. And there is absolutely no sign of us doing that. So therefore, we are going to be out, come what may, on October the 31st. And the chances, as you and I speak this morning, is there will be no deal.
Well, now you're talking with a bit more of that can-do spirit, so I applaud the BBC.
On the contrary, I'm talking about inevitabilities.
Yeah. Well, if I tuned in to the Today programme any other day, would be told that Parliament was going to rise up in arms and overturn the default setting that you're quite right is that we leave at the end of October. I think the point is there are some risks here. No one should be flip or glib about those. We need to manage those risks in a sensible way.
But he is being flippant, he is being glib. That's exactly my point.
No, I don't think so. I think what he was giving the country some historic analogy, a benchmark about why, for all the challenges we undoubtedly face at a historic crossroads for this country, we ought to bear in mind that we've risen to greater challenges before in the past. And yes, we should manage the risks, but also grasp the opportunities, which we don't get a chance to talk enough about.
Let's talk about the reality then, the practice. Philip Hammond, Chancellor of the Exchequer, not for very much longer, obviously. You cannot get a deal by October the 31st just because of the circumstances. Parliament will be largely in recess between now and then. The new European Commission doesn't officially take office until the 1st of November. There are a whole set of events that conspire against getting a deal before the 31st of October. That is the reality.
Well, no, certainly in August, when I was appointed Brexit Secretary, I used August to get out there as often as I could to engage with Michel Barnier. And
with no great success, if I may cruelly suggest.
Well, but our point is you've got the opportunity to have substantive discussions, which we did have. And the reason that it wasn't successful is because, frankly, I wasn't supported in getting the kind of deal that would be good for the country and could pass through the House of Commons. The crucial difference this time around is that you'll have, I hope, and I'm confident in Boris Johnson, a Prime Minister with a plan, the resolve, but also a sense of, as I said, national self-belief. And that's going to be important too.
Dominic, Raab, many thanks.